Welcome! Today, we're diving into the concept of a pay or quit notice, a crucial document in the world of rental agreements. If you've ever rented a home or managed a property, you might have heard this term before, but what exactly does it mean? In this video, we'll break down the basics, explain why it's important, and walk you through how it works. Whether you're a tenant or a landlord, understanding pay or quit notices can help you navigate rental relationships more confidently. Let's start by defining what a pay or quit notice is and why it's such a key part of the eviction process. A pay or quit notice is a formal written notice from a landlord to a tenant. It's typically issued when a tenant fails to pay rent on time. The notice gives the tenant a specific period, usually a few days, to either pay the overdue rent or move out of the property. If the tenant doesn't comply, the landlord can begin eviction proceedings. This notice is a legal requirement in many places before an eviction can take place. It serves as both a warning and an opportunity for the tenant to fix the issue before facing more serious consequences. The main purpose of a pay or quit notice is to give tenants a final chance to resolve unpaid rent issues before legal action is taken. It's designed to protect both landlords and tenants by clearly stating the problem and offering a solution. For landlords, it's a necessary step to begin the eviction process legally. For tenants, it's an opportunity to catch up on rent and avoid eviction. This notice helps ensure that everyone understands their rights and responsibilities, making the rental process more transparent and fair. A pay or quit notice is typically used when a tenant fails to pay rent by the due date. It's not limited to just one missed payment. Landlords may issue it after repeated late payments or partial payments as well. The timing and requirements for issuing this notice can vary depending on local laws and the terms of the lease agreement. It's important for both landlords and tenants to know when a pay or quit notice can be legally served, as improper timing can affect the outcome of any potential eviction case. Issuing a pay or quit notice isn't just a formality, it's a legal requirement in many jurisdictions. Laws often specify how the notice must be delivered, what information it must include, and how much time the tenant has to respond. For example, some places require the notice to be delivered in person or posted on the tenant's door, while others allow for mailing. The notice must clearly state the amount owed, the deadline for payment, and the consequences of not complying. Failing to follow these rules can make the notice invalid. The notice period for a pay or quit notice is usually short, often 3 to 5 days, depending on local laws. This means the tenant has only a few days to pay the overdue rent or move out. The exact length of time must be stated in the notice and must comply with state or local regulations. If the tenant pays within the notice period, they can usually stay in the property. If not, the landlord can move forward with eviction proceedings. Understanding the notice period is crucial for both parties. A proper pay or quit notice must include several key pieces of information. It should clearly state the tenant's name, the property address, the amount of rent owed, and the deadline for payment. The notice should also explain what will happen if the tenant doesn't pay or move out by the deadline, usually, that eviction proceedings will begin. Some notices may also include instructions for how to pay the overdue rent. Including all required details helps ensure the notice is legally valid. Delivery of a pay or quit notice is an important step. Landlords must follow specific rules about how the notice is given to the tenant. Common methods include handing it directly to the tenant, posting it on the property's door, or sending it by certified mail. The method used must comply with local laws to ensure the notice is valid. Proper delivery is crucial. If the notice isn't delivered correctly, it may not hold up in court, and the eviction process could be delayed. Once a tenant receives a pay or quit notice, they have two main options. Pay the overdue rent within the specified time, or move out of the property. If the tenant pays the full amount owed before the deadline, they can usually stay in the rental. If they don't pay or move out, the landlord can start the eviction process. Some tenants may try to negotiate with the landlord for more time or a payment plan, but the landlord isn't required to agree. Acting quickly is essential. If the tenant doesn't pay or move out by the deadline, the landlord can take the next step: filing for eviction in court. This process varies by location, but it generally involves submitting paperwork and attending a hearing. The court will review the case and decide whether to grant the eviction. If the landlord wins, the tenant may be ordered to leave the property, and law enforcement may assist if necessary. It's important for landlords to keep records of all notices and communications. The eviction process starts with the pay or quit notice and can end with the tenant being legally removed from the property. After the notice period expires, the landlord files an eviction lawsuit. The court schedules a hearing, and both sides can present their case. If the court rules in favor of the landlord, an eviction order is issued. The tenant is then given a final deadline to leave, and if they don't, law enforcement may step in. This process can take several weeks or even months. Both landlords and tenants can make mistakes when dealing with pay or quit notices. Landlords might fail to include all required information, deliver the notice incorrectly, or not allow enough time for the tenant to respond. Tenants might ignore the notice or misunderstand their options. These mistakes can delay the eviction process or lead to legal complications. It's important to carefully follow all rules and seek legal advice if needed to avoid costly errors. A sample pay or quit notice might look like this. It includes the tenant's name, property address, the amount of overdue rent, the deadline for payment, and a statement about possible eviction. For example, it might say, "You owe $1,000 in rent. You have 3 days to pay or vacate the property. If you do not comply, eviction proceedings will begin." This clear, direct language helps ensure everyone understands what's at stake. Tenants have certain legal protections when it comes to pay or quit notices. For example, landlords can't evict tenants without following the proper legal process. Some states have additional rules to protect tenants, such as requiring longer notice periods or allowing tenants to dispute the notice in court. Tenants who believe a notice was issued unfairly should seek legal advice or contact a local tenant advocacy group. Knowing your rights is essential to protecting yourself. Landlords have responsibilities when issuing a pay or quit notice. They must ensure the notice is accurate, complete, and delivered according to the law. Landlords should also keep records of all communications and payments. Failing to follow the rules can result in delays or legal problems. Responsible landlords treat tenants fairly and use pay or quit notices as a last resort, not as a tool for harassment or retaliation. Tenants also have responsibilities when they receive a pay or quit notice. They should read the notice carefully, understand the deadline, and take action quickly. Paying the overdue rent or moving out by the deadline can help avoid eviction. Tenants should communicate with their landlord if they need more time or have questions. Ignoring the notice can lead to legal trouble and a negative rental history. Sometimes, tenants can negotiate with their landlord after receiving a pay or quit notice. For example, they might ask for a payment plan or an extension on the deadline. While landlords aren't required to agree, open communication can sometimes lead to a solution that works for both parties. It's best to put any agreements in writing to avoid misunderstandings later. If a tenant is evicted after a pay or quit notice, it can negatively affect their credit and rental history. Evictions are often reported to credit bureaus and can make it harder to rent in the future. That's why it's important for tenants to address pay or quit notices quickly and try to resolve the issue before it escalates. Landlords may also report unpaid rent to collection agencies, further impacting the tenant's credit score. The best way to avoid receiving a pay or quit notice is to pay rent on time and communicate with your landlord if you're having trouble. Setting reminders, budgeting carefully, and seeking help early can prevent problems from escalating. Landlords can also help by sending friendly reminders before rent is due and being flexible when possible. Good communication and planning benefit everyone involved. A pay or quit notice is just one type of eviction notice. Others include cure or quit notices, which give tenants a chance to fix a lease violation, and unconditional quit notices, which require tenants to leave without a chance to fix the problem. Understanding the differences can help tenants and landlords respond appropriately to each situation. Each type of notice has its own rules and requirements. A cure or quit notice is similar to a pay or quit notice, but it's used for lease violations other than unpaid rent. For example, if a tenant has a pet in a no-pet building, the landlord might issue a cure or quit notice. The tenant then has a set amount of time to fix the problem or move out. If the tenant doesn't comply, the landlord can start eviction proceedings. This notice gives tenants a chance to correct their behavior. An unconditional quit notice is the strictest type of eviction notice. It requires the tenant to move out immediately with no chance to fix the problem or pay overdue rent. Landlords usually use this notice for serious or repeated violations, such as illegal activity or causing significant damage to the property. The rules for unconditional quit notices are strict, and they're only allowed in certain situations under the law. The rules for pay or quit notices can vary widely depending on where you live. Each state, and sometimes each city, has its own laws about how much notice is required, what information must be included, and how the notice must be delivered. It's important for both landlords and tenants to check local laws before taking action. Ignoring these differences can lead to legal trouble or delays in the eviction process. If you're unsure about your rights or responsibilities regarding a pay or quit notice, it's a good idea to seek legal help. Many communities offer free or low-cost legal services for tenants and landlords. An attorney can help you understand your options, respond to notices, and represent you in court if necessary. Getting professional advice early can save time, money, and stress. Both landlords and tenants should keep detailed records related to pay or quit notices. This includes copies of the notice, proof of delivery, payment receipts, and any communications between the parties. Good documentation can be crucial if a dispute ends up in court. It helps show that everyone followed the rules and acted in good faith. During the COVID-19 pandemic, many places enacted special rules about evictions and pay-or-quit notices. Some areas paused evictions or required landlords to offer payment plans before issuing a notice. These rules have changed over time and may still affect how pay-or-quit notices work in your area. It's important to stay updated on current laws and seek help if you're affected by pandemic-related changes. Pay-or-quit notices must be clear and easy to understand. In some areas, landlords are required to provide notices in multiple languages or offer assistance to tenants with disabilities. Making sure the notice is accessible helps prevent misunderstandings and ensures everyone knows what's expected. If you have trouble understanding a notice, ask for help from a trusted source or legal professional. If a tenant pays the overdue rent after receiving a pay-or-quit notice but before the deadline, they can usually stay in the property. However, if the payment is late or incomplete, the landlord may still proceed with eviction. Some leases include late fees, which must also be paid. It's important to pay the full amount owed and get a receipt to prove payment was made on time. Sometimes, tenants may offer a partial payment after receiving a pay-or-quit notice. Landlords are not required to accept partial payments, and doing so may affect their ability to proceed with eviction. If a landlord accepts a partial payment, they should provide a written agreement about how the remaining balance will be handled. Both parties should keep records of any payments made. If the pay-or-quit notice period expires and the tenant hasn't paid or moved out, the landlord can file for eviction. The court will review the case and may schedule a hearing. Tenants should prepare to present their side, including any evidence of payments or communication with the landlord. The outcome depends on the facts and whether both parties followed the law. During the eviction hearing, both the landlord and tenant can present evidence and explain their side of the story. The judge will review the facts, including whether the pay-or-quit notice was properly issued and delivered. If the court rules in favor of the landlord, an eviction order will be issued. If the tenant wins, they may be allowed to stay. It's important to be prepared and bring all relevant documents to the hearing. If the court issues an eviction order, the tenant will be given a final deadline to leave the property. If the tenant doesn't move out by that date, law enforcement may be called to remove them. The landlord can then change the locks and take possession of the property. Tenants should remove all personal belongings before the deadline to avoid losing them. In some cases, tenants may be able to reinstate their tenancy even after a pay-or-quit notice or eviction order. This usually requires paying all overdue rent, fees, and court costs. Some states have laws that allow tenants to cure the default and stay in the property, even after legal action has started. Tenants should check local laws and act quickly if they want to reinstate their tenancy. Landlords are not allowed to use pay-or-quit notices as a form of retaliation against tenants who exercise their legal rights, such as reporting unsafe conditions or joining a tenants' union. Retaliatory eviction is illegal in most places, and tenants who believe they're being targeted should seek legal help. Courts take these claims seriously and may dismiss eviction cases if retaliation is proven. It's illegal for landlords to issue pay-or-quit notices based on discrimination against protected classes such as race, religion, gender, or disability. Fair housing laws protect tenants from unfair treatment. If a tenant believes a notice was issued for discriminatory reasons, they can file a complaint with local or federal agencies. Landlords must treat all tenants equally and follow the law. Pay-or-quit notices aren't just for residential rentals, they're also used in commercial leases. The process is similar, but the rules and timelines may be different. Commercial tenants should review their lease agreements and consult legal counsel if they receive a pay-or-quit notice. Landlords must also follow specific procedures for commercial properties. If a tenant sublets their rental unit, both the original tenant and the subtenant may be affected by a pay-or-quit notice. The landlord can issue the notice to the original tenant, who is then responsible for ensuring the subtenant complies. Subtenants should communicate with both the landlord and the original tenant to understand their rights and obligations. When multiple tenants share a rental, a pay-or-quit notice usually applies to everyone listed on the lease. If one roommate doesn't pay their share, all tenants may be at risk of eviction. Roommates should work together to ensure rent is paid on time and communicate openly about any issues. Having a written roommate agreement can help prevent problems. Receiving a pay-or-quit notice can affect a tenant's ability to renew their lease. Landlords may be less likely to offer a renewal if there's a history of late payments or eviction notices. Tenants who want to renew should maintain a good payment record and resolve any issues quickly. Open communication with the landlord can also help. If a tenant is evicted after a pay-or-quit notice, the landlord may use the security deposit to cover unpaid rent or damages. However, landlords must follow state laws about how security deposits are handled. Tenants should request an itemized list of deductions and challenge any charges they believe are unfair. Keeping the property in good condition can help avoid disputes. If a tenant decides to move out after receiving a pay or quit notice, they should do so by the deadline stated in the notice. It's important to remove all personal belongings, clean the property, and return the keys to the landlord. Tenants should also provide a forwarding address for the return of their security deposit. Leaving the property in good condition can help avoid further disputes. Tenants who are struggling to pay rent may qualify for rental assistance programs. These programs can help cover overdue rent and prevent eviction. Landlords can also benefit by receiving payment directly from assistance agencies. Both parties should research available programs and apply as soon as possible if help is needed. Mediation is an option for resolving disputes between landlords and tenants after a pay or quit notice is issued. A neutral third party can help both sides reach an agreement without going to court. Mediation can save time, money, and stress, and may result in a solution that works for everyone. Many communities offer free or low-cost mediation services. To sum up, a pay or quit notice is a formal warning from a landlord to a tenant about unpaid rent. It gives the tenant a short period to pay or move out before eviction proceedings begin. Both landlords and tenants have rights and responsibilities, and following the law is essential. Understanding how pay or quit notices work can help prevent misunderstandings and protect everyone's interests. Understanding pay or quit notices is vital for both landlords and tenants. These notices are a key part of the rental process and can have serious consequences if ignored. By knowing your rights, following the rules, and communicating openly, you can avoid many common problems. If you ever receive or need to issue a pay or quit notice, take the time to understand the process and seek help if needed. Thanks for watching, and stay informed about your rental rights.